In this video, we are going to discuss how to create a modal using Bootstrap. So a modal is simply a kind of a pop-up window that happens whenever you click on something, such as a button or a link. So it's pretty easy when it works with the JavaScript library that is built into Bootstrap. So to get started creating our modal, I'm going to navigate down within my code to below this nav that I have above Hello World. And the first thing I want to create is a button that when I click it is going to trigger that modal. So, and this can be a lot of different things. You could do a button, you could do an image, you could do a card if you needed to. There's a lot of different things you could do, lightbox types of things with your modals. But we're just going to do a basic button that's going to launch this. So first I need to create that button. Button tag with a type of button. And I'm going to give it a class of BTN, and I'm going to just do BTN primary to make it a blue button. And I'm going to do a data toggle, data bootstrap toggle is going to be modal. And then you need to create a target for this to go to. So I'm going to do a data bootstrap target, and that is going to go to, I'm going to call it my modal. And then I'm going to type my text for this, and that's going to say launch my modal. So if I save that, then you see here I have my button that says launch my modal. Now I need to have it do something. So below that I'm going to create what would be my actual modal. So I'm going to comment that out. So I'm going to say modal. And then I think before this button I'm going to do another little comment just to keep myself organized and have it say button for modal. So now within this modal section, I'm going to go ahead and code the modal that is going to pop up. So I'm going to first create a div with a class of modal. And I'm going to give it a fade, which is going to fade in and out as it closes. And then I'm going to give it an ID. And I need to have my ID match my data target, which is the my modal. So you want those to agree in order to pop up. I'm going to give it a tab index of -1. And I'll end that div. And so within that div itself is my modal. So I'm going to create another div. There's going to be a lot of divs nested in here. And this div is going to have the class of modal content. So my div is going to have a class of modal dialog. And within that div, I'm going to create another div. I'm going to give that a class of modal content. So that'll contain all the content for that modal. So now I'm going to stylize the content with a header, a body, and a footer. You don't have to use all of those elements, but I'm going to show you what all of those elements will look like. So I'm going to create my div with a class of modal header. And within that header class, do end of modal header, just because if you notice there's a ton of divs in here. So I'm going to create an H5 tag. You can make it whatever size you would like. My H5 is going to have a class of modal title. And I'm just going to call this modal title goes here so you can see it. I'm going to create a click to close button that's going to go in that title. So I'm going to create a button tag. And it's going to be a type of button. It's going to have a class of btn close. So that way we'll close. It will have a data dismiss, data bootstrap dismiss, and that is modal. So it knows it's going to close that modal. And I can even throw in an ARIA label that lets people know who are using screen-assisted technology. ARIA label is close. So that will be what will be read to someone who's using a screen reader. I'm going to end that button. And that's my modal header. So after the end of that header, I'm going to create another div. I'm going to give that a class of modal body. And I'm going to just say, within here, I'm going to write class for, or class, I want to say text for modal goes here. And I actually need to, I completely forgot to put my paragraph tag around that, so let's open that up a little bit, make that look a little nicer, and put in a nice paragraph tag. By default that should style it, but we want to have nice, good semantic HTML. Wrap that around here. There we go, that looks much nicer. And then I'm going to create my modal footer. So after the end of that modal body, I'm going to create a new div, and that's going to have a class of modal footer. I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to create some buttons that will be like a close and a submit button. So if you wanted to have, and this could become more sophisticated if you wanted more sophisticated actions, but I'm going to create my first button tag, and I'm going to give it a type of button. I'm going to give it a class of btn secondary. And I'm going to set the data bootstrap dismiss to close this. That is equal to modal. I'm going to call this my close button. I'm going to actually duplicate this and change it just a little bit just to save on some typing, because I'm going to create a second button next to it, and I'm going to change it from a secondary color to a primary color to make it blue. Primary. And I'm going to get rid of this dismiss, so when you click it, it does not close the button. Not sure what happened there. So I'm just going to erase that real quick. So, and then this is going to say submit. So I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to test this out. So I see launch my modal. Oops. Launch my modal, and then when I click that, you can see there is my modal. That pops up, it fades in, modal title goes here, text goes here, and then I can either click to close it there, or if I relaunch it, I can click to close it here, or I can also click anywhere outside of the modal, and that will also close that. So that is how a basic modal works within Bootstrap. So that is the basics of working with modals within Bootstrap. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you on the next one.